From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Mele Kalikimaka is a thing.
Wake up! Mahalo! It's Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's. Indescribably good. You know how good the food is. We said it for like the last 2 years. Go ahead and enjoy it. Get some fried chicken fingers. It will make your day better, if that's even physically possible, after the good stuff that you heard Sunday over on Warchant.com. The ultimate Seminole sports source. Promo code Warchant30. Use it. Gets you 30 free days of access. And then you can be even cooler than you are now because you'll have a membership to the website. You folks on YouTube, keep doing you. Just keep doing you. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe in the lower right corner if you're listening to us on YouTube. Everybody on your Apple device, 5 stars, please. Please. Because even people that have no stars or 3 stars can grow up to be guys that can throw for over 9,000 yards, over 90 touchdowns, and then maybe someday come to Tallahassee. But before we get to that, let's welcome in somebody who needs no introduction. Corey Clark.
What's up, everyone? What's up? What a weekend, huh? What a weekend.
I'm so pumped. I'm so excited, Corey. I was lamenting of just how I was going to – this show was just going to get really bad ratings, thumbs down. There's Aslan. I can't stand that guy. Get him out of there. Because I was going to have to sit here and try to grin and bear like a 46-minute show talking about, they beat Duke. Pretty good. Yeah, future's bright. Like it. That's good. And I just wasn't prepared to do that. I just was not. It beats the alternative. They won. I'm happy. It's good. They needed to win. They won. Very good. A couple cool things happened in the game. But not enough for me to say for 46 minutes and try to spin it forward as some sort of, I don't want to say program-defining victory, the kind of way you poked fun at it in your column. But there was nothing beyond. They played. They showed some good glimpses. But they still are who they are. On to the next one. But we don't have to talk about that because McKenzie Milton, UCF quarterback, who again suffered a pretty gruesome injury back in November of 2018, announced about a week and a half ago that he was going to, he intended to use his last year of eligibility as a grad transfer elsewhere because his replacement, whose name escapes me right now, but I'll figure it out here in a minute.
Gabriel.
That sounds right. I almost want to say Dylan Gabriel, but that doesn't sound right. But has entrenched himself at UCF starting quarterback, so it's time for him to move on. And on Sunday, he announced that he is going to attend Florida State University. Plan is in place for him to be here in January. What does it mean, Corey? I guess at the most, let's distill it down to its most basic element. Florida State just went and got a grad transfer quarterback who has accounted for over 9,000 yards, over 90 touchdowns, has won a national championship, has won conference championships. He is now their quarterback, potentially, for 2021. What's it mean?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it means that your offense got better, your quarterback room got better, and that's. I mean, I'm going to assume that he'll be the starter next year, but that's an assumption. And you guys know I'm a pretty big fan of Jordan Travis, and again on Saturday he showed you why. It's also there's a lot of things with Travis as far as his health, but overall that guy is a dynamic talent running the ball and shows glimpses of being a good passer. But look, man, when you get a chance, and I wrote about this 10 days ago or whenever that was, like if you get a chance to bring in somebody like McKenzie Milton, so like he's totaled almost 10,000 yards of total offense, 92 touchdowns in 3 seasons. Think about that. Florida State this year until Saturday had scored 21 touchdowns total. This kid scored 92 or accounted for 92 by himself in 3 years. Now, he was on an electric offense, and they play in the AAC, not the ACC. I get it. But he showed the ability. There's just some people that are born to throw a football. And I think McKenzie Milton is one of those guys. Now, he wasn't born 6'4". That's why he's not in the NFL right now. Or, also that injury didn't help. He's 5'11". He's got some things working against him. But as far as seeing the field and throwing the football, he's pretty blessed, or was 3 years ago. So at the very least, you're getting almost like another grad assistant that actually is eligible to play. He's barely younger than Dillingham. He's got to be, what do we think, 23 years old, 23, 24.
Yeah.
But he'll be 24 for some of next season. So you're getting a grad assistant that has a lot of success, more success than any active quarterback will have in the country next year. I can't imagine there'll be another active quarterback that's thrown for more yards than Florida State's going into next season. That's a big deal, man. I think he'll be a great teacher. For not that he's coming here to do that, but it's one of those things where you just learn by watching. And this is a guy that's been around a winning program his whole college career, is used to winning. He finished his career on a 23-game winning streak. This is a guy that hasn't lost since 2016, hasn't tasted a loss, and I just think that you pick up stuff from that. If you're Chubba Purdy, if you're Jordan Travis, assuming you're still in the room, both of you, you are going to learn just by being around the guy. And there's also the not-so-small minor detail that he might be awesome in this offense. We don't know, but he's much more of a sure thing, in my opinion, than somebody like Altmaier, obviously. You just don't know. Altmaier has all the tools. He might end up being a great college quarterback. But McKenzie Milton's already proven he's a great college quarterback. Now, can he refine what he had 2 years ago? Is that still in there? Was the injury so bad that he won't be the same person? I don't know. Who knows? But you know it's in there, and it was certainly worth the risk for Mike Norvell. And I think what's interesting, like I wrote a column that you can read on Warchant about, just about what this means to the program. Look, man, McKenzie Milton, he played Memphis 3 times. He went 3-0. One of those games was a 1-point win where they came back, right, where they were down big at halftime.
Yeah.
Another one was in the conference championship game that went to double overtime. But in those 3 games, he totaled 1,100 yards of offense and 11 touchdowns in 3 games, which says something about Memphis's defense. But, hey, man, that wasn't Adam Fuller. I went on Adam Fuller's watch, everyone. Adam Fuller would have shut McKenzie Milton down, but that's another
another podcast, another episode.
Yeah, it's another podcast. But so you understand why Norvell was interested in him, right? Obviously. Right. I mean, he got terrorized by the kid for 3 straight games. But the fact that Milton was interested in Norvell should be encouraging again, right? Like I talk about this all the time, like encouraging signs even in a down year. Well, a kid that could go, I'm not going to say McKenzie Milton could go anywhere because he couldn't. But Florida State certainly wasn't the only school interested in McKenzie Milton, quite obviously. But for the fact that he was so impressed by, and I'm sure he remembers those Memphis games, and he was so impressed by what he saw from Mike Norvell and Kenny Dillingham's offense that's the one. He had his pick. He could have gone anywhere all over the country to play. He wanted to play in Mike Norvell and Kenny Dillingham's offense, and he believes in this guy enough to have this be his final college season. I think that's telling. And that's encouraging. And the fact that there's interest from him as much as there was interest from Norvell in him is a good sign.
I'm just watching this highlight on my other monitor while you just go ahead and wax poetic. It's a beautiful thing. It's like narration almost. It's like, I don't know. It's just amazing. It's like Hard Knocks. It's
right.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, I just think even if, and I'm looking at some of these highlights, and he's running around crazy, like fearlessly.
Yeah. That's another thing. That's the one thing I wonder, though, because, he threw for a ton of yards, but he also ran for over 1,000 yards. One season he ran for over 600. He had, I think, 5 or 6 games where he rushed for over 80 yards. His last year he didn't run nearly as much because he didn't have to, but that national championship, quote-unquote, year in 2017, he ran for over 600 yards. And in one of those Memphis games, or in the Auburn game, he was 14 of 32 in the Auburn game. No interceptions, a couple touchdowns, 250 yards. But he also ran for 115 yards. So he's a weapon with his legs. That's what I wonder if we're going to see the same guy. Because all his life, he's been a dude that's been able to make guys miss in the pocket. He's been a guy that can scramble out, extend plays, and that was part of his success and a part of his toolkit. Well, is it still there? Because if it's not, if he has to be a different quarterback, okay, well, is that version of McKenzie Milton better than what you already have in the room?
Yes. Yeah.
Probably, yeah,
so.
right?
Because he's just so much more of a polished passer.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it was fairly the same system, but he did this with 2 different coordinators. Like, he did really well with Scott Frost, and they followed it up the next season and was still doing strong with Josh Heupel. And then I do think that just you're limited in what Jordan Travis can do throwing the ball. And I think this really just kind of it shows a little bit of it is the fact that, they as soon as Luke Altmaier pulled back and as soon as this guy put his name in the portal, they were on it. I mean, there was no hesitation. He told Andrew Adelson of ESPN.com the first day he put his name in the portal, he heard from Dillingham and Norvell.
Yeah.
They're not going to put full court press on a guy on a flyer,
Right.
to upset the apple cart. And I really don't want to sit here and make this about Jordan, but just kind of watching it, I do think that he's just so much more of a, I don't want to say competent because that's like taking a shot. Just he knows where the ball has to go. He knows how to get it there. He's got really sharp looking mechanics. He's got good spin on the ball. I just think that he can still probably do RPO stuff. He can probably still execute the read option well enough. He can't do his John Elway helicopter into the end zone kind of stuff probably, at least not week 1, week 2, or week 3 until maybe he gets some live bullets in him. But I still think he'll be a guy that you can still run RPO stuff. You can still run read option, and he can make the right read. And no, he's not going to bust it the way that Jordan Travis does, but he's still going to be a legitimate threat that teams need to game plan for. This is exciting, man. It's just there's no two ways about it because you go into this offseason, the early signing period is this Wednesday. I'm sure we'll have Michael Langston on the show at some point earlier on in the week and then afterwards to break everything down. I just don't know. And listen, man, Mike Norvell's job is to win football games. Selling tickets, making us feel warm and fuzzy, whatever. Win football games. But I don't like what me as part of my job duties, like having to do the show. I don't know what I would be able to, for the next 7 months, what I was going to sit here and pump. Like what sort of sunshine, what sort of crevasses of the environment I would have to go to at Florida State to try to find sunlight poking through after what happened this season and what you were going to return. This guy, he makes you start believing again. He starts to make, well, not believe, but at least makes you dream, makes you feel hopeful, like overly optimistic. Not that Jordan Travis could not, but this is a bullet, man. This is a high caliber bullet that you just added to your options for 2021. I'm super excited, man.
Yeah, and I brought it up on the video we did. This is the second time it's the third straight year, but it's the second time in 3 years that Florida State has had a highly sought after, their top prospect quarterback commit, who had been committed for a year or so, 4-star guy, really highly rated, decide in December he's not coming. Well, Willie Taggart followed that up by bringing in Alex Hornibrook, which was Alex Hornibrook.
Inadequate.
Mike Norvell followed it up by bringing in McKenzie Milton. So advantage on that front to Mike Norvell. He handled the Altmaier loss about as well as you could possibly handle it because he got probably maybe the best available quarterback out there. And again, a known commodity, mostly known. Again, injuries and time off, rest, whatever you want to say. Like there is something to be said for not playing. It'll have almost been 3 years by the time he plays another live football game.
But the journey, though, right, Corey? Like almost to I don't want to call it silver line, but what he's had to overcome.
Yeah, oh no, it's the best feel-good story Florida State's had in a long, long time. And actually, people around the country, crazily, will actually be rooting for a Florida State quarterback. And that hasn't happened in, I don't know, since EJ, since Ponder, since Chip Ferguson, who knows? It's been a long time, but he is a feel-good story.
Bill Kappelman.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. People will be rooting for Florida State because of McKenzie Milton, because apparently they love him at Central Florida. And again, when you're talking about the culture and what you're trying to do, not only are you bringing in a winner, but you're bringing in a dude that was absolutely beloved at his former school. We cannot say that about Everett Golson. We cannot say that about Alex Hornibrook. This guy was beloved at Central Florida, like one of their all-time players. They just loved him. There's that video of him on Senior Day last year walking out, and just the reaction from his teammates and from the fans. This guy was an all-time great Central Florida football player. And you're bringing that kind, whatever he's done in his career other than win a lot of games, to elicit that kind of feeling, that's the character, that's the person you're bringing in to this football team. Not only is he a winner, but he's a guy that other people cheer for. He's obviously a really good teammate, just judging from everybody's reaction to him. The more of those guys you can get, the better, no matter how effective he ends up being. Just having that on your roster, again, is a big deal. It's not going to make this team a 10-win team overnight. I don't know if they're a 6-win team next year. But the offense should be better, whether he's playing or not, because if Jordan Travis beats out McKenzie Milton, well then, man, Jordan Travis must have been awesome. You know what I mean? Or vice versa. If McKenzie Milton wins or Chubba Purdy wins, they will have had to have outplayed two really good quarterbacks or potentially good quarterbacks, like viable, realistic college quarterbacks. I think that's just a really a positive step moving forward. It is a reason to get excited. You should be excited. I hope most of you guys have watched his highlights or will be watching them today.
Still going on right now, by the way.
I'm sure you are. They're really impressive. He just slings it, man. He's one of those guys that has a knack. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Aaron Rodgers. But those guys, if a guy's in their face, they're the kind of guys that can throw it around a body. They're the kind of guys that can put the touch over the linebacker. They just know how to throw a football. They just the way it makes sense to them how to get it over a linebacker and in front of a safety, how to get it around a rusher, how to fit it in that window. Now, is he going to have anybody to throw to next year? Who knows, man?
Don't matter. Scheme it up. They'll scheme it up.
But yeah, man, I think you go into this offseason feeling better about your quarterback position than you have probably since 13 going into 14 when you were returning the Heisman Trophy winner. Since then, you went into 15.
Felt good 17. I like DeAndre in 17.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah, you're right. You forget about that because of what happened afterwards. But you're right. You felt good about Francois, but that's all you had.
Yeah.
Your Malik was gone, and you had no idea about this Hockman kid or this Blackman kid. Right. But this time, you actually have an idea about the backups. Now we should just touch on a little bit. In my column that I wrote about was the calculus. This I'm talking about last week. The calculus in taking a transfer quarterback is you are running the risk of alienating one or two or three quarterbacks in your room. And we're all grown-ups here. We know how. Oh, I'm not saying you should worry about it. Clearly, he didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
I think Norvell's the answer to that question is the fact that Norvell just excitedly tweeted out how happy he was to have McKenzie Milton. Like, he's not that worried about Chuba's feelings. He ain't that worried about Jordan Travis's feelings. So, and I trust this guy's take on who's the best quarterback for this team. But, the calculus is 1 year of McKenzie Milton better than 3 years of potentially of Chuba Purdy. Well, Mike Norvell clearly thinks it is, but he also might understand. He doesn't have the time. He doesn't have the time, but he also might know that Chuba. He might. We don't talk to Chuba. Chuba been like, yeah, bring him in. I'm excited. I can't wait to play in 2022, or I'm going to beat him and I'm going to be the starter. Jordan Travis might be excited about it. I don't think he did this lightly. Like, he's a coach. He has to manage personalities, especially in a quarterback room where kids are transferring left and right every other second. So the fact that he did it, I think, tells you all you need to know about he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't upset the apple cart for no reason unless the apple was unless the apple was mighty tasty. But I don't understand what you upset an apple cart for. That's another weird saying. But he wouldn't do it just for the sake of doing it. Quite obviously, he thinks this guy is the truth. He thinks he makes them a much better team, and he probably thinks that at this point he is a better option than either one of the guys they have now. That might not prove to be true come spring, come fall. But right now, I think he's very excited and probably thinks that this is the guy that can make this offense go at a much higher rate in 2021. But I say that, man, I'm telling you, when you just think about the halves that Jordan Travis played where he finished the half.
Against who, though, man? Jacksonville State? Duke?
Well, no.
One against North Carolina?
Notre Dame counts. North Carolina counts. Pitt, he had 17 on Pitt. He is a quarterback. I mean, he is a guy that makes plays. This isn't something you can just dismiss. He just put up 56. I know it's against Duke, and they give up 56 to everyone.
Guy then, man?
No, I'm saying because you can't count on Jordan Travis. You know what I mean?
Because he's had a bad 8 weeks of health.
No, I think it's been more than that. Again, he wasn't healthy in the spring. He missed the very first practice in the spring. Yeah. There's more to it than just that. You can't count in 8 weeks. It's been 4 months. It's always something. He's like Julio Jones, being a Falcons fan. Is Julio going to play this week? Well, it's a hamstring, groin. He's questionable. He practiced Friday. Oh, he's out. It's every week with Jordan Travis. Again, I'm not saying he's not tough. I'm just saying his body,
has not responded all that well to the challenges ahead of him at Florida State.
It betrayed him a little bit this first year as a starting quarterback. But when healthy, in running the ball, he is, he's probably the best running quarterback in the country. It's just ridiculous. He is a part of the future of this program. But would he be the best starting quarterback in 2021? I don't know. Probably not. He certainly doesn't throw the ball like Milton. But maybe a year watching him, maybe a year competing with him makes Travis a much better thrower of the football. And I say that, I hope people understand. Look, that throw he made to Pokey, that's as good as you can do, man. That's a great throw. He's made some tremendous throws. It's not like he can't do it. He can make the throws. To me, what separates somebody from, like, let's say, what separates 2017 McKenzie Milton from 2020 Jordan Travis isn't arm strength, isn't 100%. It isn't overall just the accuracy. It's the timing. It's the rhythm. It's the flow. It's getting the ball out on time, staying in the pocket, stepping up in the pocket. All the things that quarterbacks do, good quarterbacks do, that not so good quarterbacks struggle with. Jordan Travis is a great scrambler. He can make something out of nothing. He can also scramble into sacks, and he can also miss open guys because he just doesn't see him quickly enough. There's a lot more to quarterback than just arm talent, but arm talent helps. And it certainly seems like McKenzie Milton has both. He has the ability to see the field, to process quickly, and he has the arm talent. He just doesn't have the size. But it's a good problem to have, man, all around. I think I'm really interested in what Chuba does. But I don't think it's like a death knell if he decides to go elsewhere. You know what I mean? And I think it's worth the risk. Quite obviously, Mike Norvell thinks it's worth the risk too, which should let everybody know that it's worth the risk.
Oh, man, there's so many directions to go. You were on such a heater on all these different things. The quote he gives to Andrew Adelson, Coach Norvell has got it headed in the right direction. This is from McKenzie Milton. I think I bring some experience on how to win and what it takes and that work ethic. So that's a good thing, obviously, to have a guy that knows how to win, brings it to your locker room. I don't know if I want to get into the whole Jordan Travis aspect. I want to get into the health thing, kind of his rehabilitation, if you will, that we were kind of touching on 15 minutes ago until we started, talking about the candidacy of Jordan Travis, which, that'll be maybe later in the show, maybe another episode. By the way, 17 against Auburn. That was a team that Auburn team actually beat Bama and beat Georgia. Then he got them in the Peach Bowl and took them down. But I just think that, like, the journey for him, I mean, you're obviously always worried about a guy that's coming off an injury like that. But I just think it's going to be over 2 years. I mean, November 18th is when it happens. So, I mean, right now as we sit here, we're 25 months post-injury. I think it's such an extraordinary circumstance. This isn't a guy that you're bringing in like Willis McGahee, where it's like, like the Bills drafted him. It's like, okay, we're gonna baby him along and then see where we're at, like in a year or two, like you're gonna redshirt him almost. I do think that it's been so far along, or so far removed from it. It's had to been such an extraordinary, grueling rehab that he has to be somewhere mentally that most kids his age are not, or maybe not his age, but at least most guys that are playing quarterback in Power 5 just are not, man. Like what he's had to overcome. I just think there has to be a sort of sense of just renewed enthusiasm to be able to play this game, be able to play it at this level. You're at Florida State. I'm sure, again, he probably had multiple opportunities, some that might even seem better on the surface than Florida State. That I'm not as concerned about the injury maybe as most people would be, just because, again, I think it has been so long. He is fine. He was running scout team for UCF. He was practicing this past year. He does plan on being on campus in January. And then again, what he's had to overcome. There just has to be some bit of mental strength that you've gained from this that'll overcome whatever sort of slight physical deterioration you have from what that injury was.
Yeah,
it's not taking away. It wasn't like Samson getting his hair cut. Like taking away the shiftiness to the degree that maybe he had in 2017, I don't think makes him, any less of a dynamic and, well-rounded quarterback.
Well, look, it's like, again, I'm not comparing him to either one of these guys, but Mahomes and Rodgers aren't like incredible runners, but they're great at using their legs to extend plays. That makes them even more dynamic than they already are. And that's if that's not the same, then yeah, he might not be quite as good. But even 95% McKenzie Milton or 89% McKenzie Milton would still be let's say he's 89% or 80% of what he was in 2017 or 2018 before he got hurt. That would still be the best quarterback Florida State's had since Jameis. You know what I mean? It just would be. Francois had some nice moments, but I think this guy is just another level as a thrower. But it's not just the tangible stuff, man. Like you were talking about, it's the intangibles. It's somebody that hasn't lost a game in 23 games. He's 23-0 in his last 23 games. And not that he's going to go undefeated at Florida State, but there's a mentality that comes with that. And when you're the quarterback, people do look to you for leadership. When you're 24 years old, they're going to be looking to you for leadership. You've been a part of big games. You played in New Year's Six games. None of your teammates have. All that stuff matters. I just think, I think, I knew when his name came out that it was that would kind of make sense. State of Florida, bigger school, bigger, historically. Not enrollment wise, or certainly not where they are now, but a big school, a traditional power, get to play in the ACC, all this stuff. I was like, well, that would be a pretty interesting fit. Okay. And then when it seemed like it was becoming more and more likely, or at least possible, I was like, yeah, that would be the one guy, right? Like, I don't know that you would get, if one of the LSU kids transferred.
Well, I like the kid from Baylor. Like I was telling you before we recorded the video, when I saw Charlie Brewer's name, I'm like, go after him. But then I scrolled up like 2 inches on my Twitter feed, and sure enough, he's like, McKenzie Milton's committed to Florida State. I'm like, all right, never mind. We're good.
Yeah,
We're covered.
And that it's as good as Mike Norvell could have done, I think, in this offseason at that position.
Absolutely. They got De'Aaron King.
You couldn't have expected anybody better. Yeah, he's De'Aaron King, in my opinion, except, De'Aaron King had recently played. That's the only difference, in my opinion, is that De'Aaron King was more of a known commodity because he wasn't coming off a devastating injury. They kept him out of football for 2 years. That's the difference. But other than that, the history, the success, Milton had more success than De'Aaron King. Yeah. So this could be that guy. And look, to be fair, I've talked all along about how Miami by the way, we need to get to that game in a little bit, but how Miami turned into Miami this year, became an 8-win team. Well, it wasn't because Diaz recruited great, or they became this unbelievable program and changed the culture. It's because they got De'Aaron King. In my opinion, he made that big of an impact. They got shut out in their bowl game against Louisiana Tech before Tyler Grubbs. He was even on campus. Louisiana Tech shut out Miami in that bowl game last December. And then this year they're putting up 52 or 59 or whatever it was against Florida State, and they're winning 8 games.
52.
That's the quarterback. The quarterback can make that big a difference. He really can. And so I think, that's, again, another reason why Florida State fans should be excited. I'm not 100% on the board, the Milton train yet. I want to see what he looks like in the spring. But if he looks like the same guy or a reasonable facsimile of the same guy, then yeah, count me in. That's Florida State got a huge commitment. Huge. Like you could go from a 3-win team to a 7-win team if you get great quarterback play. But you also need guys around you.
Well,
and
again,
we'll see how that goes.
It's the two things that can instantly turn you around. It's a new head coach, which is not going to happen, and I'm not endorsing it to happen, and a new quarterback, which it just feels it's weird because you do see what Jordan Travis has done, and at a certain point you have to just kind of surrender. If you're somebody like me, be like, dude, just look what the guy does. I mean, it speaks for itself. He's been doing it a few games here. It's more than just like an aberration. But it's just still just something about it just doesn't feel like sustainable to me. And I think, Mike Norvell and Kenny Dillingham going after McKenzie Milton, there's something about it too that I just don't think, like I don't think, Jordan, you cannot beat Miami. I don't think you can beat Clemson. I don't think you can beat Notre Dame with Jordan Travis as your quarterback. I don't think you can game plan as an offensive staff to create plays where hopefully the defense will be in man coverage and we can run 4 verticals on this and they'll have their back turned to the line of scrimmage and then Jordan can do his thing. And I don't think they've shown anything really in their past. I think Taylor Kelly's one guy they mentioned that somewhat was of a primary running guy, or at least did his best when he kept the ball. But like Mike Bercovici when they had him at Arizona State, Riley Ferguson at Memphis, Brady White, I mean, none of these guys were things break down and then everything works out, which is kind of how everything seems to be with Jordan Travis. Like things have to break down and then he has to make crazy things out of nothing to make this offense move. That's just not like a sustainable thing. How do you game plan for that? Like what plays do you start installing? How do you coach that? You can do it against Duke. Maybe you can do it against a short-staffed Pitt team for a little bit. Notre Dame for a while until you're outmanned. But I just think that it's kind of cool. I think they're being overly ambitious. Maybe I'm thinking they're looking at things like, all right, man, we've played Miami, we played Notre Dame, we know what's out there in Clemson, we know what we're chasing in this conference. I think this is what we need if we want to be able to catch those guys. And it's not this whole baby steps thing that we all want to see. This like them being maybe overly ambitious. This whole it's a rebuild. He has all the time in the world. It's fine. I get it. It's going to take time. I don't think they were thinking that. I think by going after a guy like McKenzie Milton, they think like the time is now. Like they can make a huge jump and then stabilize things and then hopefully be able to piece together enough recruiting classes. Maybe salvage something now, and then maybe you build off an 8-win, 9-win season with this guy, and then, Chubba or Jordan, which both those guys are still positioned well for 2022 if they don't win out the job. It kind of gives you a path forward. So
again, if you don't remember, they all get to keep their classification for next year. So Jordan Travis will still just be a sophomore, and Chubba Purdy will still just be a freshman. So, I think that does bode well. I think maybe it's not sustainable to say we're going to run zone read 90% of the time and Jordan Travis is going to have to run for 100 yards every game. But I don't think it's because of the game plan. I think it's because of the health of the quarterback. Because, again, Notre Dame hasn't given up. Notre Dame hasn't looked like that against the run against anybody else since.
They were also coming off like 3 weeks of not playing.
Well, we can make excuses all we want. He had 300 yards of offense against Notre Dame with one capable receiver. I mean, that to me is impressive. What he did against Duke is impressive. What he did against North Carolina first half before Dante Lucas, impressive. I think he has a chance to be a fantastic college quarterback if he gets down the stuff that needs to be imagine him being able to really sling it and to see the field and have that athleticism. That's something. But again, that's not going to be next year. That's certainly not going to be by the Notre Dame game.
Imagine if I was 6'5" and made six.
But I don't think we can just dismiss that he can't do it because he didn't do it for 5 games where his best receiver he had him for 1 game, and he has nobody else that's ever going to sniff the league on his roster. On this, I mean, look at those receivers he had Saturday, and he still totaled 300 yards of offense.
So would he do 700 if he had Rashad Green?
Well, look, I think some guys are making. I think they call more pass plays. Number one, I think some guys are making plays on the sidelines that didn't get made. But yeah, I mean, I think we're acting like.
Well, I'm acting like. You can say I'm.
Well, you are, yeah, but a lot of people are that like he's proven that he can't be an effective passer. It's like, man, go watch anybody through their first 4 or 5 games as a quarterback. Jordan Travis had some nice moments throwing the football. He can be good enough. But I also think, again, going back to the point, what if he can actually learn by watching McKenzie Milton and what he does, how he approaches the game, how he watches film, his fundamentals, his mechanics, his attention to detail, whatever it is, his personality, things he can pick up on, getting rid of the ball quick. I'm sure McKenzie Milton has it's a GA. It's another GA. He has some hints and some things that Travis can use. I think maybe 2022, if he's still around, he has a chance to be a really, really good college quarterback. But even still, we're just talking about next year. Jordan Travis is going to be part of this offense if he's still around. They're going to use him in ways. You can't have somebody like that and just not play him. Again, this isn't normal what he's doing. He's averaging like 82 yards a game rushing as a quarterback when he plays the full game. It's just, again, he's averaging 9 yards a carry when he's not getting sacked. It's ridiculous stuff. So even if it's like having him like what they did the first drive against Miami. Remember that? They had him in the slot. They threw him a pass. They had him throw a pass. They had him run a reverse. You can do that stuff with him moving forward. He is a part, but he also needs to stay at quarterback too. And I know Jordan Travis isn't really the focus, but I don't want. He has proven to be a capable college quarterback and a dynamic one. He doesn't have the it factor in the passing game that McKenzie Milton has, and he might not ever get it. And look, you'd rather have a guy like McKenzie Milton that just sees it quicker, gets it on you quicker, makes better throws than you would an incredible runner. Otherwise, Tyreek Hill would be the quarterback for the Chiefs. Like what McKenzie Milton does is much more important, not much more important, but is better for an offense than what Jordan Travis can do. But still, let's not quite give up on Jordan Travis. The games he starts and finishes, they're not terrible. It's just the whole, finishing the game. That's been an issue. And you can't count on him to all of a sudden be 100% healthy next year. And you're just, again, the overarching theme of this whole podcast is the QB room got a lot better. A lot better.
Yeah, I don't want to keep talking about Jordan Travis. Let's talk about MyBookie, mybookie.com. Use the promo code Warchant. They'll match your first deposit, half of it. So that's pretty cool. Use it. I should have recommended the Southern Miss FAU game. Down goes Taggart. Lost to Southern Miss. Third loss of the season for the Owls. I did recommend the Mississippi State Auburn over, which was, sorry, everybody. I don't know if there's, I think, maybe 30 points they combined for those two horrible teams. Although Gus Malzahn was able to dance and celebrate in the locker room, and then about 12 hours later was promptly fired, dismissed from his post. So good luck to whoever goes Auburn. You got to win more than about 70% of your games. You have to be able to beat Alabama more than 3 times. So, yeah, Hugh Freeze, you're on the clock. How things fare out with so Florida State won, obviously covered.
Yeah.
Big win.
Yeah.
So there's a win for the big guy.
Yeah.
Hammered the over. Just crushed it. Gosh, 91.
Yeah.
What were the other ones?
I did take the over, right, in that one?
Yeah, we both hammered it. Yeah.
I think the other one was I had the under in the Georgia-Missouri game, which I really was bad at that. I think I might have – I can't remember what my other one, though, was. Oh, it was I took Miami.
North Carolina.
I took Miami. Look, guys, I told you. Run with me at your own risk. It's your own peril. I'm not great at this stuff, or I wouldn't be on the show right now. I'd be in Vegas. So look, that Miami game was unlike anything I've ever. It's one of the most inexplicable things I've ever seen. Like Miami had a good defense, like not great. They're not 2000 Miami, but they had a good defense. How do you give up that many yards rushing? How does that happen? When you haven't done that, like I think the stat was in their last 5 games total, they had given up like 500 yards rushing total. And then they gave up 555 in one game. How's that happen, Aslan? Explain it to me. Is it as simple as COVID? Like it's a crazy year and crazy things happen?
I don't know, but use the promo code Warchant at MyBookie.
Thanks.
I don't know, man. I didn't even watch the game. I just kept seeing the score updating on the bottom line. I'm like, oh boy.
I watched the highlights.
Maybe I don't know. That doesn't make any. I have no good explanation for it. Really.
It's crazy. I'm not sad about it, but it was inexplicable. The whole thing was inexplicable. Not as inexplicable as the great shoe toss of 2020. And look, this year is going to be remembered for a lot of things, mostly awful things. But the one thing that Florida State fans can always look back on fondly is, number one, you didn't lose to Florida at anything, actually. You beat them in baseball in 2020.
Yep.
You beat them again in basketball in 2020.
Yep. And
you didn't lose to them in football. And then they had a potential national championships dreams dashed by some kid tossing a shoe 20 yards downfield. And then the referee even explaining it. Like personal foul, Florida. He tossed the LSU player's shoe 20 yards. Automatic first down. It's like that's never been uttered by a referee in a football game ever. Just completely and utterly just insanity. But it was awesome. It was my favorite it might have been my favorite moment of 2020.
It was easily I have not been that happy on a Saturday or after a football weekend since, I don't know, beating them in 17 or, Nooney catching the touchdown against Michigan. I'm being honest. The beating Duke was cool. Seeing Florida lose that way was absolutely magnificent. I was trying to edit the Warchant wrap that you and Ira had done post-game wrap-up of the Duke game, and I just couldn't. I had to keep walking back into the living room and watching the game just to see that team, lose in that fashion against LSU that had no shot, 23.5 point underdog, I think.
Brad Johnson's kid starting.
Heisman Trophy gone. National championship hopes gone. I love seeing them. I love seeing them hurt. And that coach, we all enjoyed seeing Spurrier squirm. I'm telling you, there's something magical. It's delicious to watch Dan Mullen be Dan Mullen when they lose games. So, and this is cool. This is the second time now he's been on the precipice of possibly getting into the college football playoff with just one game standing in the way. Although, I mean, they probably weren't going to beat Alabama, and he just colossally failed. So that also, like, long-term makes you feel good, too, about the way he's wired, the way he's built, and then maybe sometimes these moments will just be too big for him ultimately. Although, listen, and they're ahead of the game right now. They're in a much better position, but you guys look like absolute clowns, and it was beautiful. I was trying
to think of a penalty in Florida State's history that was as crazy as that one, and there isn't. Like, there's never been a penalty as crazy as that one. Yeah. I mean, that guy, his last name's Wilson, right?
Yeah, Marco Wilson, I think.
Marco Wilson. He'll be remembered forever. I mean, he just ingrained ourselves. That's what I was telling the people I was watching it with on Saturday night. Social distance outside, of course. Man, that we're going to remember this for the rest of our lives. We're never going to forget the shoe toss. I mean, we're just not. It's going to be like the OJ chase. It's just going to be, where were you when he threw the shoe? That's what people are going to be. We could make the T-shirts. We could make T-shirts with it. Just an unbelievable way to lose. And I think, look, we all get it, man. Florida fans have had a much better year. They've had a lot more positive experiences on Saturdays than Florida State fans have, going on a couple of years now. But for the first time in a long time, Florida State fans had a better Saturday than Florida fans and Miami fans. A much better Saturday. Which is, and then to cap it off with getting McKenzie Milton. I mean, that's a really, really wonderful stretch for Florida State fans for 24 hours. And then also, of course, you got to sprinkle in there the fact that your basketball team beat them again.
7 in a row.
7 in a row.
Ties the highest streak in the rivalry's history.
Just, So I know we haven't touched on that much. We probably should a little more. But, beating Florida, you beat Florida in basketball. You beat Duke and scored 56 points. I know it's Duke, but you got to play. You finally at least were on a football field. You won a game. Both your rivals lost in embarrassing fashion, quite frankly. And then you got McKenzie Milton the next day. That was a 24-hour stretch for Mike Norvell and Florida State fans there haven't been that many smiles in this fan base in a long time as there were on Saturday night and Sunday afternoon.
I think one of the things that we'll probably end up talking about as things progress, and I see Ira's tweeted it out, something that Tom Rinaldi did a few weeks ago on game day, and you mentioned the classy way he handled his transfer announcement, and just Florida State's finally going to have a quarterback that's likable hopefully to people outside of Tallahassee. I mean, we've liked all of our quarterbacks by and large here, but a lot of it's bunker mentality. That's going to be kind of cool, man. Like, your national championship seasons have always had some sort of cloud, at least from a national perspective, hanging over them. Not that next season's going to be a national championship, but like just to feel good about a guy on your team, and everyone likes somebody on your team, which I know sounds really childish from a guy, especially me, that doesn't care about being nice. But it's going to be pleasant. This is super cool. This is great, man. We have hope. We have hope and optimism now. And I know there would have been a certain degree of it with the way that Jordan Travis played against Duke and maybe the way he plays against Wake Forest if they play, and maybe if they get a bowl game. Because who knows at this rate? There's
everybody's the whole ACC is dropping out. Yeah.
I mean, hey, Florida State's one of those teams. The governor here will probably. I wonder if DeSantis would be like, I demand you play. The bowl game's being played in Florida. Play, darn it.
Yeah.
But because that was the whole thing, right? Like, what is this? How are they going to market this? How do you market a 3-8 team, a 4-7 team? How do you do that? How are you going to get kids to buy in? And somehow the biggest free agent out there, and I know the injury's hanging over it. I understand that, but I just the resume. How do you score a guy that's got 10,000 yards and over 90 touchdowns when you've only won 3 games in a season and not feel like over the moon about it?
Yeah, and as you were talking, I was thinking about in the wins too, the 23. And as I write my column, I don't consider wins a quarterback stat.
Right.
But because that's just unfair. Like otherwise, Thad Busby was one of the greats in college football history because he was 22-2 or whatever. But no, it's not a quarterback stat necessarily. But he was a part. He was a big reason why they won those games. You know what I mean? It wasn't like Hornibrook, who would throw 11 passes a game and then hand it off to a 260-pound tailback, and that's why they won at Wisconsin. McKenzie Milton was very directly involved in all of those wins. He's made winning plays late in games. He knows what that feels like. To me, that's, and again, this isn't about Jordan Travis, but again, you saw on Saturday, as much as I like him, and I feel like I'm his agent, when it started to evolve in the second quarter, he couldn't unspin it until they got to halftime. You know what I mean? I think McKenzie Milton might be a guy that can spin it quickly, like get out of the tailspin quickly, because he's done it. He's been down by 24 points at halftime. He's been in a Peach Bowl and having to drive to win the game against Auburn. He's been in championship games and double overtime games. He's experienced all of it. And I just think that, again, all that rubs off. I just think it just rubs off. And what I wonder, too, is with a name like Milton, don't you think that if there's a couple grad transfer wide receiver, not even grad, you don't have to be a grad.
Jeremiah Holloman, that's my guy.
Yeah, you're all about him. Some transfer wide receivers out there. I don't know, as much as I like them, I don't know how appealing if you put on the game film of the Duke game or, say, the Pitt game, and you showed it to a wide receiver prospect and said, don't you want to be a part of this offense? They'd be like, oh, you mean the one where the quarterback keeps the ball all the time and scores all the touchdowns and runs around and I get to block? Yeah, maybe. Probably not. But then you say, okay, you don't want to be a part of that. Well, here, watch my Memphis offense from 19. Watch my Memphis offense from 18. Oh, now watch this championship game that we played against Central Florida a few years ago. The score was 62-55. Like, I think look at all the yards McKenzie Milton threw for. Look at all the receiving yards those Central Florida wide receivers had. I think that's how you can sell here in the short term for sure. But, I mean, signing day's, 2 days away? So it might be a little too late to get a high school kid to flip. But on the transfer market, I think that name McKenzie Milton will resonate, and I think you will be able to get a couple wide receivers that are much more excited to play with him than potentially playing with Jordan Travis.
Another thing, too, and maybe wrapping things up here a little bit, he went to UCF in 16. So he committed to a team that came off an 0-12 season and had a first-year coach with Scott Frost.
Yeah.
So again, and he was there. He was part of it. Like he walked into a locker room that had not won a game for an entire season, and then kind of was part of the rebuild and helped turn the tide there, and then helped sustain it too. And I'm going to tongue in cheek the whole we have a national championship winning quarterback in the locker room, and it'll probably get really lame sooner than later. But, man, to a certain degree, like they had a target on their back in that conference. And, again, it's the AAC. I don't want to put, maybe too much stock into that. But, he played against Lane and FAU in 18 when they were coming off that season they had. They still played that's when things were really starting to kind of hum in Memphis for Norvell and company. So he's been in situations, to your point about that, not all these games were blowout wins either that they had. Like some of these were dogfights. And he found ways to make plays. To have a guy like that, it's just to push whatever else you have on your depth chart. It's hard not to look at this like in a really positive, optimistic prism. And I'm excited because he says he's going to get here in January. Is what he told Andrew Adelson. So before we know it, he's actually going to be here in Tallahassee working out. Then they'll have a good feel for just what they have with him, and hopefully he'll ingratiate himself well to his new teammates. And I think I think everything worked out well. At least it seemed like on the surface between like James Blackman and Alex Hornibrook in that quarterback room. I certainly think with what Milton had to do and kind of watch him lose grasp of the job that he helped. And he helped that program move to such great lengths in the short amount of time he was there to watch a guy take over the reins and the way he handled it. I just think he'll be able. There's no one else that would be better sort of suited to come into a situation where you probably have guys. At least Jordan Travis has every right to think that he's earned this job and it should be his job moving forward.
Sure.
I just don't. I don't see like the only negative drawback was to your point about maybe this creating some sort of friction in a quarterback room. I just don't see it, man.
No, I don't think it creates friction in the quarterback room because if anything, like Chuba might be upset at like Norvell, but he's not going to be upset at McKenzie Milton. And that's the one thing that you touched on that I think is really a good point is also when he's in that room, man, think of the respect that they'll have for him. Like he garners respect. Like, the fact, not just because he put up all those numbers, but that he has fought back through 2 years. He could have just said, okay, well, my college football career's over. But he fought through 2 years. He rehabbed for 2 years to get back to this. So, of course, they're going to have immense respect for him all through the offseason leading up to the first game. How could you not? You'd be a robot. And sometimes I wonder if Jordan Travis is a robot. But just the way he answers questions. But overall, he's not a robot. And I think they will have, and I'm on record there, by the way, Jordan Travis is not a robot.
I will not co-sign that yet.
Okay, we'll see. But I just have this feeling he's not. But of course they're going to have immense respect for him because how could you not? What kind of person would be like, man, this guy's all talk? Like you couldn't be. You know his story. You've seen the injury. You know who he was before the injury and how hard he had to work to come back from. It is a feel good story. Much like the Florida State defense holding Duke to only 35 points. I mean, we can't go the whole show and not talk about that.
What
some
is there
stretches.
to talk about?
I don't know, but I don't want to just. Well, here's what to talk about. I was happy for Brendan Gant after. Remember, it seems like a year ago, but that NC State game, it was just ridiculous what he was doing back there. Whether he was coached to do it or it was instinct or lack thereof, he had a rough game. So for him to come back in the next game, I know it's Duke, but to get pushed down on a play and make a crazy interception and then make the game, in my opinion, the game-changing play. It was the game-changing play. He knocked their quarterback out of the game and caused a fumble. And they scored 2 plays later, and that was basically a wrap on the game. Good for him. And really excited for Hamsa.
Yeah, that's right.
And when I wrote about it after the game, that moment when they're celebrating like that for his interception. It wasn't just the interception, by the way. He had a play. Well, he had 9 tackles in the first half because he's Hamsa. But there was a play where they ran a toss sweep or a wide receiver screen or something, and he came up and just slammed the blocker backwards. And instead, that play 3 games ago would have probably gone for 12 yards. Instead, it went for -1 because of Hamsa Nasruddin. Like, that's the kind of impact he can have. Just his physicality. He came up like a missile and just slammed the guy. Made a crazy good play. But also just the reaction of his teammates when he had that interception. That, to me, the guys that were on that field on Saturday, that's the core. That's the core that's coming back. And the fact that they were so selflessly excited for one of their teammates, almost to a man. They all ran. It seemed like the whole team wanted to go run over and hug him. That, again, is a good sign. That's a building block. Not a championship program by any stretch of the imagination, but that is a building block that these guys kind of buy into each other and being good teammates, as Brendan Gant said after the game. And hopefully that will continue. And you just think the addition of someone like McKenzie Milton, who's gone through what he's gone through, will continue that as well.
Speaking of over-unders, I don't have the winners, but they will be posted on Warchant.com's Tribal Council, so check it out. Corey, you won this week by 1. We agreed on everything, and we were right on all the ones that we agreed on. And then I was wrong on the 8.5 penalties. I took the over, you took the under. They had 6 penalties, Florida State. So.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go. We
Well
got 6.
done.
That's not bad. Also, before we get out of here, we want to send our well wishes, our thoughts. Not that it really matters, I guess, but I've never been in an arena where something happened like it happened at the Florida State game. And I'm not talking about the dunks. Keontae Johnson going down like that was really unnerving and scary. And I've never quite seen anything like that. I've never been in an arena that sounded like that felt like that. And we still don't know really much other than he's in critical but stable condition. So obviously we're all thinking about him because that's really scary and awful. And if you don't know, when it happened, Leonard told the referees, you could go talk to him about Mike White, and we don't have to continue the game if they don't want to. And Mike White said, no, we'll play the game. I'm sure he asked the players, and the players said they wanted to play the game. But that was when Florida was up 11-3. But even at halftime, when Florida State had regained control and was up by 10 at halftime, Leonard told the Florida State administrators, hey, go to their locker room and see if they still want to continue playing this game. because if they don't, we'll call it off. And Florida again said no, we'll keep playing. So anyway, and Leonard said that they were praying. Some of his kids had tears in their eyes when Johnson was on the court. Just a really scary, awful scene. And it kind of, a win's a win, and it was a great win over a rival, and there were some incredible plays, but it all kind of it had a pall over it because we still don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it was a great win, and I'm a big fan of what Leonard's done with this program and how good this team could be, and Scotty Barnes is ridiculous. But there was the shadow over all of it is his health, and hopefully he's okay. Hopefully I know he's not okay, but hopefully everything turns out okay.
Yeah, when I turned the game on, and they literally, I think, went to commercial break when it happened. I didn't see it until early Sunday morning on Twitter. I actually saw the young man collapse, and I did see the reaction from the Florida players on Saturday as the game was being played. There's no way they should play this game. There's no way. They did. Whoever's choice that was, but it does sound cool that Leonard did extend.
Yeah, of course, because look, he could. What if Mike White had told him, God, we just can't do this? They just saw their teammate carted off, and Leonard's like, no, get your ass on the court. We're playing. Of course not. Yeah. This was all Mike White's decision. It was all Florida's decision, and they elected to continue to play the game, and not for the betterment of his team. Certainly not their ego and feelings when they kept getting dunked on. And Scotty Barnes, I love him, man, but you can't dance anymore after dunks. You're going to get a technical, and Leonard might, Leonard might blow a gasket.
Leonard might put that black glove on you.
Yeah, I was going to say he might take the gloves off. Yeah. He might take his black gloves off. That was all Florida's decision. And we just, again, we hope that everything turns out to be okay, or is okay as it can be. And that aside, just another really impressive win for Florida State basketball, which is what they do. And they open up ACC play on Tuesday night against Georgia Tech.
All right. So it's Monday. As you're listening to this, we should be getting Coach Mike Norvell and coordinators around noonish. Don't think we can talk to him or ask him specifically about Milton, even though he tweeted about it, not so discreetly. I think he even put aloha, 808 to 850 or something. I don't know. But we will try to. I will try to see if he will let us know how many people they can sign, because that's going to be my task for Monday. Try to figure out what the number is they're trying to go for, and then we can maybe piece together all the other numbers.
Just ask him the rules, not even, because he's going to try to avoid. I like how I tell you, my microphone doesn't work, I'm not in on the Zoom call too, but he's going to try to say, well, I don't want to get into numbers or anything, but you could just ask about his numbers specifically. Right. But he could just be asked about the NCAA rules. What are you allowed to bring in total? Is it just 25, including transfers? And he could maybe explain that to us. By the way, before we go, I would be remiss. I'm a proud father. I'm always a proud dad. He's basically a really good kid, pretty good student, pretty good athlete, really good sense of humor, just crazy loud and talks too much. But I love him. He's a great kid.
Where did he ever get those traits from?
I know, right? But on Sunday afternoon, he had a basketball game. I wasn't there because I was down here in Tallahassee, but I was told by him and then also his mom that down by 39-37, with 3.5 seconds left, they devise a play where one of the baseball players on the team throws a pass to half court to our best athlete, who catches it, and then Brady's supposed to make a V cut to get open for a three-pointer. The kid at the half court catches it, fumbles it a little bit, passes it to Brady, who then in turn buries the game-winning three-pointer at the buzzer.
Let's go!
How about that? How about the Clarks coming through?
Corner three, elbow, top of the key?
Wing three.
All right.
Wing three, yeah. Towards the corner, he said, but kind of on the wing.
Did he say Kobe when he let it go?
I think he said ball game as it was in the – I called game.
All right.
He just kept yelling, Brady called game. Brady called game. No. He said he said he ran around like a crazy person. I didn't get it on video. Nobody got it on video.
Oh, it's 2020. Come on.
I know. Maybe somebody in the crowd was recording it, but my ex-wife wasn't one of them. Oh. So I just had to take. But she's like, why would I think to record that? I didn't know he was getting the ball. I didn't know what the play was, and if he did get it, I wasn't sure he was going to make it. But yeah, apparently he also had Shanna said he might have had 18 or 20 points. look, for a kid with his lack of athleticism, that's saying something, folks. That's all I'm saying. It's not like one of those 12-year-olds that gets 20 points because he's getting a bunch of rebounds and making layups or jumping over everyone. Brady Clark has to earn his points because he's 5'0" nothing, 100 and nothing, and can barely jump over a phone book.
He's 12.
Hey,
Give him, come on.
I know.
You're talking about like his athletic career has already been like written.
Well,
like,
it's funny. I know this isn't what this show is, but the game I did watch him play, he is athletic. Like he can't jump real high yet, but who can at 12? But I've told him so much, I think, that look, if you're going to be good at basketball, understand you're not going to be tall and you're not going to be blessed with great athleticism because of who your parents are. And I've told him that so much that he just kind of doesn't try to be an athlete at all. And I'm like, Brady, you're still quick. You're like I was quick. I'm just saying you're not going to be able to jump out of a gym, but you still have quickness in you, and you still are fast. So use your athlete, and you can't jump. Just because you can't jump high doesn't mean you don't jump at all. So yeah, I think I went above and beyond telling him, reminding him that he might not end up being an incredible athlete, that he started thinking he was a bad athlete, and I tried to get him out of that this week by making him jump up and down a lot and showing him that he was a good athlete. But either way, yeah. He hit the game winner. Proud dad. Now let's hope he aces the finals.
That's right. Last thing, should Pitmaster Chris in Perry, Georgia? It's going to cater our Wake Up Warchant customer listener appreciation party for the spring game. I mean, I don't eat pork, so I'm still going to need some sort of fried turkey or something. But should we move it to like a pig roast, like a luau theme?
What's the connection?
McKenzie Milton.
Hawaii. Is he from Hawaii?
Yeah, man. Come on.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, my God. I had to delete that.
Why?
How do you not know he's from Hawaii?
Man, I don't know he's from Hawaii. I know he's
from
Central
Mahalo.
Florida. Well, who knew?
Mahalo.
You were wearing a Hawaiian shirt. I didn't know you would put on the Hawaiian shirt specifically for that. Yeah, okay, awesome. He's from Hawaii. So, yes, it should be a luau. Get some of that.
Pig roast on a spit.
What's that gross stuff the Hawaiians eat?
Spam?
Poi? Spam, yeah, but also there's poi, I think. Something blue or purple that's pretty gross. But Hawaii, Hawaii's a great country. Great country. Delete all this. In with Brady. In with me talking about Brady. But yes, it will make the spring game a lot more interesting, right? If there is one, which we assume there will be, we'll have a lot more focus on that game this spring than we have, probably since Jameis.
I think they should.
It's all exciting, man.
Jordan and McKenzie should draft their teams live on the podcast. So, Mike, let's make it happen.
That's not a bad idea, man. We'll zoom it, and then it can be a YouTube. Man, I'd get a ton of hits if they're drafting. Well, drafting like their top 10. We don't want to get down to the nitty gritty where they're like, all right, I guess I'll take
Chaz Neal.
Chaz Neal, sure, whatever. Somebody's got to have them. Do we have?
Oh, good.
I
wanted Quayshawn Fuller. I thought you were going to get Quayshawn Fuller. I'll get Quayshawn. Oh, Josh Griffith's still on the board. How did I not know?
Man, Griffiths was back out there again. That was good to see. So, that's a good idea too. But this podcast has gone on long enough. We had a lot to talk about finally. Folks, we were starved.
Stuff.
It had been 4 weeks, 5 weeks. It had been 56 days since they had won a football game, since we had gotten to talk about a positive outcome on a Saturday. And then you throw in the Shoegate, and you throw in North Carolina running for 1,000 yards, and then you throw in the basketball game, and you throw in McKenzie Milton. It's a jam-packed show, baby. Jam-packed show. Welcome back if you haven't listened in about a month.
And Florida still sucks. He's Corey Mazel. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's and to Scrabble again.
And now, a math lesson. Let's say the Zaxby's chicken finger plate comes with 4, 5, or 6 hand-breaded fingers and 1 side of Zax sauce. Plus, you can try them with Zax sauce, honey mustard, hot honey mustard, tongue torch, teriyaki, wimpy, nuclear, barbecue ranch, sweet and spicy, insane. How many possible combinations does that make? Carry the 2 with a remainder... a lot. Zaxby's chicken finger plate. The sauceabilities are endless.